Do this now if you have friends or family who ever ask to borrow money from you, because this can often be a somewhat stressful, sticky situation where it could end the friendship or it could end your communication with that family member if things go south, right? So whenever it comes to loaning money, you know, you're always taking a risk. So when it comes for me personally loaning any friends or family money, which I have done in the past, it really depends on the person. So I kind of bend the rules for certain family members or friends that I know I can trust to pay me back, that I don't have to worry about. They've proven, you know, that they've paid me back in the past, or they have the means to, or even if they've never borrowed money from me previously, there's somebody that is responsible that I know, okay, I don't have to worry about this person, right? But even then, in those situations, right, you just don't know until until they do pay you back. And then there are certain family members or even friends of mine where I rather not deal with the stress of it or put our relationship at risk, and I will simply gift them a certain amount, right? So say they ask for $1,000 to borrow $1,000. I might gift them like half of that, like 500. Here's 500. Don't worry about it, right? And just don't ask me again. Here's $500, man. Good luck. Right? It depends on the situation. The reason obviously has a lot to do with it, right? How much of an emergency it is, that also has to do with it. Whether or not they're able to get that money themselves, right? I kind of want to be a last resort. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, hey, Matt's got some dough, man. I'm going to go to him first. No, right? Because, no, right? But again, it depends on the type of relationship I have with that person and how close I am to them. Obviously, if it were like a parent or my own children, I would be a lot less hesitant to loan them money. I'd just be like, okay, what do you need it for? And as long as the reason was valid and they weren't just going to go splurge it or anything like that, and they needed it for something that, you know, that was, again, valid, and they had no other way of getting it, and there was kind of a time constraint on it, like they needed to get this done by a certain date, or they needed to pay something by a certain date, otherwise they would be screwed. Yeah, I get it. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I can help you out. That's cool. Right? And usually I would go ahead and do that, and you know, then obviously depending on their situation, usually there's some sort of arrangement where they would pay you back, right? I mean, my parents have never asked me for money, so that's never been a thing. It's usually been the, like, you know, me as their child, they've offered me money in the past, and even back then when I was like dead broke, I didn't want to take it. I was like, I'll make it on my own steam, I'll figure out a way, you know, that's all right, you know. And I think I got a lot of respect from my dad for doing that. That was several years ago when I first started my business. I was like down to my last $500, and he had just retired. He had like a big wad of cash, and he was like, "Here, I'll give you like a few $1,000s, and that way you could kind of just like hold yourself over." And I'm like, very tempted, and I was like, "No, it's okay." He's like, "No, I'm giving this to you. I'm going to give it to you." I'm like, "No," you know, because I wanted to make it on my own, right? And I'm glad I didn't take it because it pushed me harder. But regardless, I mean, I've been in situations where I've had, you know, family members and friends who've asked me, you know, and I always just kind of gauge it on why. I'm like, okay, what's going on and why? And usually there is some type of emergency situation. They might be like, oh, I'm about to get kicked out of my place, and, you know, I'm not getting my check until Friday, so I just need it until Friday. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, I'll take care of it. And then, you know, come Friday, they pay me back, right? No problem. Relationship's still intact. However, you know, there are situations where you might loan somebody some money and they don't pay you back, and they avoid you, and they just totally stop taking your calls. And usually when that happens, it's friendship's over, right? It's like, dude, I just bailed you out and you're going to screw me over. Friendship's over. Luckily, I haven't had anything like that happen to me where I've, you know, because I mean, I've had kind of like shady friends in the past when I was kind of like in my 20s when I was being shady, who tried to borrow money from me back then. I didn't even really have a lot of money, but they've like tried to borrow, and I was kind of like, nah, dude, no, because I knew the guy would never pay me back, right? Whereas like I hear a lot of stories, right, with students of mine and friends of mine who were like, hey, you know, my buddy's asking to borrow money, or my nephew's asking to borrow money, or my niece is asking to borrow money. Should I loan it to her? And I'm always like, well, what's your relationship with them? How much do you trust them? Do you think they will pay you back? Or, you know, are you kind of like, you're not sure? And they're, you know, if they're always like, well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not that sure, especially if it's family. What I always tell them, what I do personally is you know, if it's a family member that I'm not sure and I don't want to ruin the relationship because we're family, I'll be like, okay, if they're asking for 1,000, I'll be like, here's 500, you know, and just gift that to them, right? And really, that's it, right? It's like, you could just gift it to them and go, here, I hope everything works out. Here's the $500. Don't worry about it, right? Or if you want to go, hey, I could give you half of that, just try to pay me back, you know, as soon as you can. And if they don't, just don't hold it against them, right? And just have that in your head, you know, if you want to keep the family relationship intact, because otherwise, I mean, you know, it can really be a little stressful if you have a family member who borrows money from you and doesn't pay you back, it screws you over. Different story if it's a friend, you know, if it's just like a friend and they screw you over, you could be like, okay, piss off, right? Because they're not family, you don't have to see them again. And if they don't pay you back, right? But also that tells you what kind of friend they are, right? So, yeah, personally for me, like I never liked doing that. I might have borrowed money in the past. Maybe I could count on like one hand, like probably when I was much younger. And even then I didn't like it. I just kind of like making on my own steam. Again, like even when my dad like was offering me like a few $1,000 when I was in the hole and trying to get my business off the ground, and he was like, no, here, just take it. You don't have to pay me back. I was just like, nah, I don't feel good about it. I'm already like a grown man, and yeah, I'm not a kid. I'm going to do it, Dad. I'm going to take care of it on my own. And again, I feel like he had a newfound respect for me at that point. But yeah, if you're loaning, if you have anybody asking for money, I mean, even if you have it, you know, I mean, you really have to just understand that it's going to put some stress on your relationship during the time. I mean, either way, it is going to put stress on your relationship. If you say no to him, you say like, no, flat out no. Or if you do loan it to him, okay, say you do loan him the money and he doesn't pay you back, or he starts just, like I said, avoiding you and making excuses, and all of a sudden you feel like you're chasing him around. This is why I say, like, if you know he or she is that type of person, it's, you know, and you want to protect that relationship, it's better to just be like, here's half of it, or here's like a few $100 of it, and don't worry about it, right? Just take care of what you need to take care of, and you know, if you could pay me back, great, that'll be cool. And just leave it at that. And if they don't, they're like, okay, well, they didn't, I'm not going to loan them money again. And if they come back again and be like, hey, can I borrow like another few $100? Just be like, no, man, you still owe me 300, right? Then you could pull that on. No, you still owe me 300 bucks, man. Pay me that, and I'll loan you that, right? Now you don't have to feel guilty with saying no, but it is very sticky and, you know, somewhat stressful on the relationship when you ask, you know, when people borrow money, right? And everybody hits a rough patch, right? I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody just hits a bad patch, especially when all this COVID stuff happened, and people were losing their jobs, or people were worried about losing their jobs. I mean, I remember personally, I was like already telling my team to just not stress. I was like, I'm not going to fire a single person, and I will fund people, you know, from my savings if I have to keep the business afloat. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. We actually grew during the pandemic, which is common with, you know, any online business. Usually it's brick and mortar businesses, restaurants, you know, yeah, just like actual businesses with physical space that don't do well. But internet businesses usually, online businesses usually do well. Virtual businesses usually do well during economic you know, economic crashes or any type of like economic difficulties in the market. But when somebody asks you for money, that's how you handle it. Okay, you have to gauge it depending on your relationship. If you trust that person and you know that they're responsible and they'll probably pay you back, then do it. And if they don't, you know, you need to judge your friends better, right? I mean, and that's, I mean, really the last resort is you have to take them to court to get your money back, and that sucks. I mean, talk about stress, man, that sucks. Probably have to take them to small claims court, file a claim, and obviously the judge is going to ask if you have anything in writing, and if you don't have anything in writing and it was just verbal, good luck with that, because you're probably not going to see your money ever again. But whenever you do loan money, just be prepared that you might not see that money again, right? There's you know, a 50-50 chance you might not, and just understand that, you know, and this is why you want to be careful just doling money out. It's like, yeah, sure, you want to be a good guy and you want to help people out, but you also have to be responsible, right? And by you being responsible, you're helping them to be responsible. Right? So you have to judge this on a case-by-case basis. You can't have like this blanket rule where I'm a cool guy, I have the funds anyway, I'm just going to loan it out to everybody, right? It has to be on a case-by-case basis, and that's how usually I take it. Right? And I just loaned money recently to a friend of mine that was moving into a new apartment complex, and she had just gotten a new job, and it was a pretty high-paying job too. It was a nice six-figure job, and she's a professional. She has an advanced degree, and it was one of the first times where I was like loaning her money, and it was one of the first times she asked me, and she even told me like she didn't want to ask me, and she just said, you could say no, it's fine, don't worry about it. And this is a really good friend of mine, and she's like, yeah, I've known her for a while, so I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But I knew in the back of my head, if you don't pay me back, I'm never loaning you money again, and it's going to change the dynamic of our relationship. Right? But I mean, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a low amount either. It was a couple of grand, and I was like, okay, when are you going to pay me back? And then she gave me a date. She goes, I get paid on this day, and it was like 5 days after. I go, oh, that's not too bad. Make sure you pay me back. And I'd make sure to let her know, like, make sure you pay me back. And then she was like, I'm going to pay you back. And I was like, all right. I loaned it to her, and she ended up paying me back. And that was the only time. I wasn't really that worried about it either, because I knew that it was bothering her, and she even said like, I don't like this feeling, and like it's bothering me at night. She goes, I just can't wait to get my check. The first thing I'm going to do, she's like, I'm just going to give you a check. And I'm like, okay. And she paid me back, and the check cleared, right? All is good. But I mean, there was a little bit of stress during that time. I was like, okay, will our relationship end because of this? Will it cause the relationship to like not function anymore? So yeah, you just have to take it on a case-by-case basis. But you know, in her case, she needed to move into this, you know, this new place, and really she didn't have a whole lot of options, and she was out of work because of the pandemic thing, and I mean, it was all pretty legit because I had known her for a few years, and I was like, okay, it's all pretty legit, and we kind of have the same group of friends, and she knows my girlfriend, and I was like, yeah. And I asked my girl, I go, you think I can trust her? And she was like, yeah, I don't see why not. And I was like, okay, cool. If she doesn't pay me back, it's gonna stress our relationship, me and hers, not my girlfriend. But she was like, no, I think she'll pay me back, and she did. Right. So again, a little bit of stress, and you have to judge it on a case-by-case basis. Now, there are some people that, you know, that I could think of that have asked me, right, where I just flat out was like, nah, you have to find another way, because I knew they were just kind of relying on me as an easy out instead of like being responsible and doing what they need to do. And then there are a couple other people I could think of where I was literally like, I'm just going to give you a little bit and don't worry about it, right? Because it's like I value our relationship more than, you know, a few $100. So I'll help you out this time, but yeah, don't ask me again. You know, I don't mind doing that, but it's like, Once they keep coming back and going, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, I know you loaned me this last time, can I get some more? I'm like, okay, I'm not an ATM, I'm not a bank, right? So you have to take it on a case-by-case basis, guys. But if you've ever been in this situation where somebody's asked you for money and you felt uncomfortable, or you didn't know if you should help them out, or they didn't pay you back, drop your story below. Let me know what happened, and let me know if you're just done loaning people money, or you're tired of people asking you, or you've been on that side where you've asked people, right? Let me know your thoughts below. I'm sure a lot of other guys have been in the same situation, so drop your comments below on this. I tried to give you my best take as best as I could. It doesn't happen to me all the time, but every once in a while it does, you know. So drop your comments below. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and smash that notification bell as well. Smash all three. Boom, boom, boom. Helps me out a ton. And for you guys who want to support my work and all of this red pill content I'm teaching you, best way to do that is by becoming a premium subscriber of my premium Alpha Male Secrets channel. Right now it's only $1 for the entire first month of premium Alpha Male Secrets content from me. So take advantage of it. All you need to do is click the link below in my description box. It will take you over to my website where you can get signed up right now. It just takes 2 seconds, so do that now. And I will see you in my next coaching video. Until next time.